Hi, this is Jason Fierstein back from Phoenix Men's Counseling, and thank you for coming back to my video series. Today we're talking about something that is really important, is getting your emotional needs met. Not just in your relationships, but mostly in your primary relationship or marriage. I talk with so many men where this is such a struggle, so I wanted to outline 6 bullet points that I thought were important to address in talking about getting your emotional needs met. First bullet point is identification of your feelings and what it is that you need. You know, so many men that I talk with, and women for that matter, simply don't know what they need. They want their partner to mind read them, or they play games or are passive aggressive about getting their needs met. Unless you really know what it is that you need and feel, and that you're specific with your marital partner, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to get your emotional needs met. So what do I mean by this? Being specific, really understanding what your vulnerable emotions are, like fear, sadness, loneliness, rejection, the primary pain. If you can speak out of that place, that vulnerable place, and talk with your partner about what it is that you're needing specifically: more time, more attention, more validation, more praise, more sexual connection, whatever those needs are. If you can identify the feeling and the need together and combine them, you're putting yourself in a much better place to get those needs met. If you're just relying on, well, they should know what I need and they can read my mind, and you're resorting to unconscious behaviors that you're acting out towards your relationship partner, you are setting yourself up for more failure. In fact, if you're not getting your emotional needs met at that point, chances are it's going to be a lot harder to get those needs met if you're unconsciously getting into those reactive behaviors. So that's really, really important, and it's really subtle, because if you're unconsciously reacting, your partner is going to do the same back, and so your chances of getting your emotional needs are going to be a lot less. So identifying your feelings and what you need, and being specific so that you can communicate it directly to your wife, girlfriend, or relationship partner. So that's the first one. Second point is identification of barriers to communicating your feelings. So what do I mean by barriers? Barriers are just as important to identifying as it is your feelings and needs. Barriers could take the form of several things. It could be that you're too afraid to have a conversation with your wife about what it is that you're needing. Maybe you fall into people-pleasing behavior where you put the other person's needs in front of yours. Maybe your children come in the way. Maybe you and your wife are so busy parenting together and having the co-parenting relationship that you don't set aside time and prioritize your actual marriage. Maybe that's a barrier. Maybe the fact that your partner is unavailable emotionally, maybe that could create a barrier between you and your wife or girlfriend or partner. Maybe workaholism. Maybe you've used work as a way to escape the pain or the coming home part. Maybe work gives you those things that you don't feel like you're getting from your relationship partner. Validation, affirmation, love, whatever the case is. So I think it's really important to identify those barriers and really taking a good look, an honest look at what might those barriers be, either external or internal. What is it that I'm bringing to the table? What are the barriers that I'm creating to getting my emotional needs met? So I think that's number 2. Number 3, approach is everything. You want to speak from your vulnerability. You want to talk about your vulnerable feelings, the pain that you're experiencing because you're not getting those needs met from your wife or girlfriend. I really wouldn't always suggest going into your anger or resentment. Sometimes it can be effective, but sometimes it can also make the person turn away as well, especially with women. Sometimes get afraid of men's anger or resentment. that's probably another video that I can do, but speaking from the vulnerable feelings, the pain, the fear, the sadness, the loneliness, the rejection, all those things are all game. You can even talk about how you feel disconnected from your wife or girlfriend or husband, for that matter. Feeling disconnected. Hey, I'm feeling disconnected from you, and I really want to prioritize our relationship, and I have some feelings that are going unmet that I'd really like to talk with you about, and I'd like to reconnect with you. So approaching it from a disconnection point of view would also work. Don't focus on the other person and their deficiencies. When you start to do that, you start to make them defensive, and you start to trigger their own reactive responses to you. So if you're, say, feeling criticized or judged by your relationship partner, if you start to focus on them and their deficiencies or their criticism, they may just come back and do what they're doing that prevents you from getting your emotional needs met in the first place. So you want to not so much focus on them and what the problem is with them, more focus on you and the needs and feelings that are going unmet for you. When you turn that, when you pivot it to your own self, it really changes it around quite a bit. People are way more inclined and they feel less defensive if you're focused on yourself than on them. Because if you're focused on them, again, they're going to get defensive, and then they're going to or offensive. They may start to attack you. So understanding that is really important. And setting a time to sit down with your loved one, and again, really making it a formal thing. Sometimes we get so caught up with work and children and responsibilities that these types of conversations only really happen after a fight, or at a time where both of you maybe aren't quite available emotionally. You're getting ready for work, or you're just coming home and you're tired. So really setting a time to sit down and maybe even doing this on a regular schedule, sitting down regularly and having that time to connect and talk through both of your feelings, getting your emotional needs met, at a stated point. Maybe that can start to facilitate more of that need being met. You also want to appreciate, and this is number 4, the fact that every couple has a negative cycle. And so what do I mean? Every couple has a cycle that consists of negative or reactive behaviors, certain thoughts about your partner and your marriage, secondary emotions and primary emotions. And when we are in an intimate relationship with each other, each partner are bringing those reactive tendencies to the table, and then they kind of mix and swish around, and then you have a negative cycle. So understanding that your negative cycle may get in the way of you getting your emotional needs met, and you may be triggering something for your spouse, or have triggered something historically that they then put up a wall and don't let you in to meet those emotional needs. There may be resentment, there may be pain, they may be shut down from a long history of reactive tendencies on your part. So they may not be available right now to meet your emotional needs until they can work through the pain or process the negative emotions associated with not having you, for example, present or available to them in the marriage. Maybe you've been avoidant or checked out. So realizing that you may not be getting your emotional needs met because they're blocked or they're somehow inhibited from meeting those needs for you, I think is really important. And then eventually working through that together, or getting the help of a trained professional marriage counselor to help you. That, I think, it's important to appreciate the fact that it's not just on you, it may be on them as well, that they're blocked. You may be feeling like, well, man, I'm doing everything I can and I'm trying to communicate the best I can. I'm talking about my needs and feelings and they're not open to me. Well, it may just be that they're blocked. It may be that they need to also process their pain so that you can reconnect. So that's number 4. Number 5 is don't hide. Don't stuff away, don't walk away, don't go to your man cave. Men are notorious for dealing with vulnerability and pain by avoiding it or walking away or just intellectualizing it. All of those things really just contribute more to this quote-unquote negative cycle, or it may be continuing to trigger these responses. So if you're a guy and you tend to walk away or you tend to intellectualize your pain, don't do that. You want to really reach down into your vulnerability and talk about those vulnerable emotions in order to get those needs met from your relationship partner. So not running, not hiding, not pushing it down, not rationalizing. There's so many ways to avoid dealing with the painful emotions. Because if you can't deal with that pain, you can't expect that your wife or girlfriend is going to be able to deal with that pain either. You have to have the strength and the courage to be able to deal with those painful emotions first. And if you're hiding or stuffing or whatnot, it's going to make it really difficult. And the last thing is, sometimes our partner is not always available to meet our emotional needs. So it's important to try to meet some of our own, meaning how do you stay present to those negative emotions that come up? If you're in pain or you feel lonely that you're not getting the attention or the validation from your wife, try to carve out a space where you can be present with that pain, and that's located physically, either in your heart or your stomach or your throat. Sometimes we carry them on our shoulders. Really staying with that physical sensation and working through it in the here and now sometimes will help dissipate some of the pain, where we're not holding on so tightly to someone else in need of them meeting our emotional needs. Sometimes we can meet our own emotional needs temporarily, and if this continues as a pattern, then there might be other things that you want to consider with your relationship, specifically therapy. But I think we can, to some degree, meet our own emotional needs, at least temporarily, if they're not being met or can't be met or won't be met by our relationship partner. So these are 6 things to think about in terms of getting our emotional needs met. As you can see, this is such a huge topic and it requires more than just this video, but I hope you've gotten something out of this. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or contact me through my website, phoenixmenscounseling.com, and have a great week. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye.